How to let go of worry and live your best life. Montaigne's advice. What if I told you that nearly everything you worry about, everything that keeps you awake at night, that gnaws at you in the silence of your thoughts, is a kind of illusion? Not because the world isn't dangerous or uncertain, but because your mind, in trying to protect you, ends up trapping you. That's where we begin. With a man who lived nearly 500 years ago in a time of plagues, civil war, and social chaos, Michel de Montaigne, a philosopher who understood that the greatest threat to our peace wasn't the world outside, but the storm inside. This video isn't about shallow positive thinking. It's about going toe to toe with fear, anxiety, and the need for control. It's about philosophical self-defense. And Montaigne, despite being from a time before social media, deadlines, and constant comparison, spoke directly to the modern condition. He saw that most of us live in a state of constant agitation, perpetually rehearsing disasters that haven't happened, fearing outcomes we can't control, and postponing joy in the name of preparation. But what if the way out isn't to fight the chaos, but to shift how we think about life itself? Montaigne reminds us that we suffer more in anticipation than in reality. He writes, "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." Let that sink in. How many hours have you spent catastrophizing, only to realize later that the event either didn't happen or wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined? And yet, the worry felt real. It drained your energy, hijacked your focus, and took the color out of the present moment. That's the trap Montaigne saw so clearly. The mind promises safety through worry, but delivers suffering instead. So what's the alternative? Montaigne's answer is deceptively simple: learn how to live. Not in the abstract, not through grand theories, but through a deep, intimate relationship with your own mind. You don't conquer worry through external achievements, you do it by transforming your perspective. He believed that philosophy wasn't something you studied. It was something you practiced, like a craft. And the first thing you had to learn was how to die.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Yes, die. Because for Montaigne, the root of all anxiety was the fear of death. Not just physical death, but the death of status, of comfort, of identity. We fear change, loss, endings. But Montaigne flipped the script. He didn't see death as something to dread, but as something to make peace with, because once you accept that death is inevitable, that it can come at any moment, you stop postponing life. You stop living for someday and start living for now. Ask yourself, if I knew I had 1 year to live, how would I treat this day? This conversation? This moment of boredom or beauty? Montaigne's philosophy forces us to confront that question, not to scare us, but to wake us up. Because most of us are asleep. We think we're living, but we're just managing risk. We think we're being responsible, but we're really just deferring joy out of habit. We don't need more time. We need more presence. That's where Montaigne becomes radical. He says, don't waste your life trying to control what you can't. Master your mind instead. And that starts with learning how to talk to yourself. Montaigne's essays are filled with conversations, not arguments, but inner dialogues. He questions his own assumptions, he laughs at his own contradictions, he reflects without judgment. That's the model. To let go of worry, we don't need to silence the mind, we need to make it a better companion. One that's curious, calm, forgiving. Here's the twist. Montaigne wasn't a monk. He didn't renounce the world. He loved good food, friendship, books, long walks with his horse. His solution to worry wasn't withdrawal, it was engagement, but with awareness. He invites us to enjoy life, not because it's perfect, but precisely because it's not. He reminds us that we don't need guarantees to appreciate what we have. We just need to stop letting fear write the script of our lives. What if you could live like that? What if you could wake up tomorrow and meet your day not with panic or pressure, but with curiosity? What would you notice that you've been too busy worrying to see? The art of being ordinary, why embracing imperfection is the key to peace. One of the most quietly revolutionary ideas Montaigne ever gifted us was this: you don't have to be exceptional to be at peace. In fact, chasing exceptionality might be the very thing keeping you from it. In a world obsessed with achievement, with standing out, with being the best, Montaigne urges us to consider the radical beauty of being ordinary. Not mediocre, not lazy, but fully human, flawed, inconsistent, unfinished, and comfortable with it. We spend so much of our lives trying to prove ourselves, trying to earn admiration, trying to avoid judgment. But in doing so, we become strangers to ourselves. We filter our experiences through the lens of performance. Am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Do they like me? Will this be seen? And every day becomes a kind of audition. But Montaigne offers a different path. He says, be at home with yourself. Be enough for yourself. Let the world be the world, and let yourself just be. That's not passivity. That's power. Because when you stop needing to be exceptional to feel worthy, you reclaim an enormous amount of energy. You stop competing with illusions. You stop comparing your backstage to everyone else's highlight reel. You begin to pay attention to the things that actually make life rich: friendship, curiosity, small pleasures. And you begin to realize that peace doesn't come from reaching the peak, but from learning how to stand still long enough to feel the ground beneath your feet. Montaigne didn't set out to be a sage. He didn't try to build a system or convert anyone to a grand ideology. He simply observed his own life, his fears, his habits, his thoughts, and wrote them down with honesty. He wasn't trying to impress us. He was trying to understand himself. And in doing so, he gave us permission to do the same. He showed that it's okay to contradict yourself, to change your mind, to not have it all figured out. Because being human isn't about perfection. It's about adaptability, humility, and presence. Ask yourself, what would change if you stopped holding yourself to impossible standards? What if your worth wasn't tied to your productivity, your appearance, your performance? What if you were allowed to be a work in progress today and every day? That shift is the beginning of freedom. Because when you accept your imperfections, you stop needing to hide them. When you stop needing to hide them, you become more connected to others. And when you're truly connected, worry loses its grip. You're no longer performing for approval. You're simply being with others who are doing the same. This is why Montaigne's essays are so comforting. They don't tell you how to fix yourself. They tell you you're not broken. They remind you that it's okay to be inconsistent, to feel things you can't explain, to not always know what you believe. Life, he says, is too mysterious, too fluid, too alive to be reduced to formulas. So live it, explore it, question it. And don't be afraid to laugh at yourself along the way. He once wrote, "Every man bears the whole form of the human condition." That line is a lifeline in a culture that tells us we're never enough. It means you don't have to look elsewhere to understand life. You are life. Your joys, your fears, your doubts, they're not signs of failure. They're proof you're awake. And when you stop resisting them, when you stop trying to reach some imaginary version of who you should be, you find something much deeper than success. You find peace. So what if the goal isn't to stand out, but to stand in your life as it is, with presence and compassion? What if letting go of worry starts with letting go of the need to be more than human? The strength of surrender, how letting go gives you more control than holding on. There's a paradox at the heart of worry. The more we try to control life, the more out of control we feel. We cling to plans, to expectations, to carefully crafted identities, believing that certainty is the path to peace. But Montaigne, who lived through plagues and political collapse, knew this wasn't true. He saw that real strength doesn't come from tightening your grip, it comes from learning how to let go. Not out of weakness, not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. We think surrender means giving up. But Montaigne shows us it's the opposite. It's choosing not to waste your life trying to manipulate what you can't control. It's choosing to invest your attention, your care, your presence into the only thing that's truly yours, your response. You can't control what happens to you. You can't control other people. You can't control how long anything lasts. But you can control how you meet it. And that shift from control to presence is where freedom begins. The illusion of control is seductive. It promises safety. But it also breeds anxiety because it sets us up to fail. Every time something doesn't go according to plan, we see it as a personal shortcoming. Every time someone disappoints us, we take it as an attack. Every time life throws a curveball, as it inevitably will, we panic because we built our peace on a foundation that was never secure. Montaigne invites us to build a different kind of peace, not based on certainty, but on resilience. Not on fantasy, but on truth. And the truth is, life is uncertain. It will hurt you. It will surprise you. It will not follow your timeline. And yet, it is still beautiful, but still worth showing up for. Still full of moments that take your breath away if you're not too busy trying to control them. Letting go isn't about apathy, it's about trust. Not blind trust in outcomes, but deep trust in your own ability to face whatever comes. That's the strength Montaigne points us toward, not the strength of domination, but of adaptation. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to that's causing me more fear than freedom? What would happen if I didn't need things to go my way to be okay? These are not easy questions, but they're liberating ones. Because the more you let go of needing life to obey your expectations, the more open you become to what life is actually offering. And sometimes, what it offers is better than what you planned. Sometimes, the detour becomes the path. But you only see that if you're willing to loosen your grip. Montaigne believed that the best preparation for life was not control, but familiarity with yourself, with your mind, with the natural rhythms of the world. He spent hours reflecting on how he reacted to pain, fear, loss, not to master them, but to understand them. Because understanding gives you space. It gives you choice. And from that space you can act not out of panic, but out of presence. There's a strange kind of control that emerges when you stop needing control. It's the control of someone who knows that they can bend without breaking. Who knows that not every storm requires resistance, some require surrender. And in that surrender, you find a kind of peace that control could never offer. A peace that says, whatever comes, I will meet it. Not because I'm invincible, but because I'm ready to be real. So maybe letting go isn't about being passive. Maybe it's the most active thing you can do. Maybe it's not giving up, it's finally showing up, fully, honestly, without armor. Not because you've guaranteed the outcome, but because you've accepted the risk of living. Dying before you die, the ultimate cure for fear and the secret to joy. What if the key to living your best life isn't found in doing more, achieving more, or even fixing yourself, but in coming to terms with your own death? It sounds morbid, even extreme. But Montaigne believed that learning how to die was the most important thing a person could do. And not because he was obsessed with death, but because he wanted to live fully, freely, without the constant undertow of fear pulling him away from the present moment. To Montaigne, the fear of death was the root of all other fears. And until we come to terms with that, we never really live, we just rehearse survival. He wrote, "To practice death is to practice freedom." What does that mean? It means that when you face the fact of your own mortality not as a distant concept, but as a vivid truth, you stop living like you have forever. You stop postponing what matters. You stop worrying about things that, in the end, don't matter. You begin to see with clarity, this life is not a rehearsal. This conversation, this morning, this breath, none of it is guaranteed to repeat. And instead of making you anxious, that awareness makes everything more vivid, more sacred, more real. We live in a culture that avoids death at all costs. We hide it, sanitize it, distract ourselves from it. But Montaigne invites us to do the opposite. He suggests we keep death in view, not to be gloomy, but to be honest. Because when you stop pretending that life is endless, you make better choices. You love more deeply. You forgive faster. You take more risks, not reckless ones, but meaningful ones. You stop chasing immortality through fame or wealth or perfection, and you start crafting a life that feels true to you. Ask yourself, if today were your last day, not in a cliché motivational way, but as a real possibility, what would you regret? What would you wish you had said, done, or let go of? That kind of question has the power to cut through all the noise. It brings you back to what matters. And that's where joy begins, not in denying death, but in integrating it, in making peace with it, in seeing it not as an interruption, but as a reminder. Montaigne didn't fear death because he spent his life preparing for it, not by withdrawing from the world, but by embracing it. He lived in his body. He savored his senses. He honored his relationships. He wrote his thoughts, not to impress, but to understand. He died once, but he practiced dying every day by letting go of ego, of illusion, of the false security we build around permanence. And in doing so, he discovered something incredible. When you're no longer afraid to die, you're finally free to live. And this is the secret most of us miss. We think fear keeps us safe, but it actually keeps us small. It keeps us from showing up, from speaking truth, from taking the leap. We think if we just plan enough, protect enough, worry enough, we'll avoid pain. But pain still comes. Loss still finds us. Control still slips through our fingers. So what if, instead of fearing that moment, we prepared for it not by obsessing, but by aligning our lives with what we know to be true, that we are temporary. And because we are temporary, we are precious. Letting go of worry isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about seeing life clearly and choosing to live anyway, choosing to laugh anyway, choosing to try, to love, to fail, to begin again. Not because you're guaranteed anything, but because this is it. This is your shot. This is your moment. Montaigne's advice is not a quick fix. It's a slow unfolding of wisdom rooted in reflection and honesty. But if you take it seriously, if you dare to live with death in mind, if you embrace your imperfections, if you surrender your illusions of control, you will find something more powerful than certainty. You will find peace. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of presence. The peace of a life fully lived, not in spite of its limits, but because of them. So, if you want to let go of worry and live your best life, start here, accept the end. And then, begin again. Show up to your life not as a rehearsal, but as the one real thing. And remember, every breath is a gift. Every moment is a decision. And every day is a chance to live, not forever, but fully. Now ask yourself, not someday, but right now, what would change if you truly believed this was enough? That you are enough? And what's stopping you from living like it? That's Montaigne's challenge, and it's our opportunity.